Today I want to talk about how you can create more of what you want in your life, how you can get in touch with your creative power. I'm going to talk about three important things to keep in mind when you're creating and wanting to create this place in your life that feels like you're in your creative power. Before we get started, like this video and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, let's talk about creativity because one thing I know about creativity is it's something that I thought I didn't have when I was younger. I thought I was not creative, and I thought creativity was just for people in the art world, in the world or realm of talent of making music or of dance or of painting. And I've learned so much more since then when it comes to creativity and the art and the practice of creating. And so the first thing I want to talk about is really, do you want to create something else for yourself in your life? This could be about you being a creative person, but this is also about, do you want to create a different type of life for yourself? Or is there something that you want to create more of? Is there something that you want to stop creating in your life? Because many of us have been in that space where we are having these experiences that really don't feel good. And I don't think you really think about the fact, because I know I didn't, that we are a big part of creating what we're experiencing. So if it's true that we are part of creating what we're experiencing, then listen to this video so that you can understand three important tips to recognize, come into that place of creating. Regardless of if it's you're wanting to stop creating a certain dynamic in your life, or if you want to create something that you can't even see right now in your life. Creation is something that I've learned we all have. Um, and so learning that and understanding that more deeply has been so profound, and it's been really a big change in my life. And I want to share those things with you. So three things that we're talking about. The first one is, in order to create, we have to be at a place where we're not over consuming. So though you're watching this video, it is still important for me to note that sometimes you can be taking in so much information that you can't really create in an effective way, um, because you're taking in everyone else's information, everyone else's energy. And something that I've learned is very important when you want to create is that you need to have a clear channel. You need to be in your own energy to create what it is that you want. And in order to do that, in a time that it is all about information, there can be too much information, and then there can also be too much energy from other people. Now, other people are important, and insights from other people are important at different points in our life. But when you're trying to create something for yourself, it is also important to spend time with yourself and to spend time with a quiet mind, a quiet space, basically not all of the distractions that could have you pulling off of what other people's thoughts are, what other people would want. When you want to create for yourself, it's important to stop consuming so much, regardless of if it's consuming too much in the internet or on our phones, which these things can tend to be big distractions after a while. Many of us know that we're not getting as much done in our life, in our day-to-day, because we're distracted by so much information that we get on our smartphones and on our laptops and all of the gadgets that we have now. So it is first important to clear all of that and give yourself space. One of the things that I have been doing, and it has really been helpful, is first of all, I recognized that I was over consuming. I love to learn, and I was learning so many things, too many things, that I didn't even have time to process the things that I learned. And some of the things that I was listening to, that also wasn't good information. So now you have all this stuff in your head, or I had all this stuff in my head, and I didn't know what to even do with all of it. It began to not feel so good to have all that information because there's always a thing where there can be too much of anything is not good for us. And so what I started doing is committing to Monday through Friday. I don't listen to YouTube. I don't listen to all of the extra information. I utilize my weekend as a time to use some of that information, and then Monday through Friday is my time to be in my space to be able to study things that are important to me and to be able to have time to reflect on what I have learned, and to take that knowledge into myself, and from that create from those things. But what I learned is if I'm listening to something, and I was doing this, listening to one podcast to another video to just constantly, there was no room for me to be able to think and create for myself and think on those things and come up with, what I felt was important from those things. So I know that too much consumption is not good. And that's one type of consumption of information. But then we're also talking about the consumption of other people's opinions or, someone else's view on things. All of these things can have a place, but if we're over taking that in too much, then we don't have space to understand what we feel and what our energy is wanting to bring forth. So the overconsumption is the first thing when you're wanting to create, to stop overconsuming and recognize that there's a time to be still and to be quiet. And it's such a beautiful time to be able to just hear what's within you, because that's where creation starts, all within us, in our mind, in our heart, in our spirit. And then that's where we can start to create something from. So clearing our channels, clearing all the energy, all the different things that we can overconsume, clearing that stuff, and living space for you to be able to then be within your own energy to start creating. Number one. So number two is to recognize that we are always creating. I mentioned earlier that I used to think that I wasn't creative. I used to think I wasn't creative because I wasn't someone who was writing, or I wasn't someone who was painting, or I wasn't someone who was dancing, even though I did later really love to learned to love dance. But and there was a period of time where I just thought I was not creative. And that's the furthest thing from the truth, because we are all creative. If you really think about it, we come from creation. We come from the creator. And if you think about how things are when you think about your parents, when you are born and you have two parents, you think about the fact that you take on your parents' attributes, some of them, many of them. You take on those attributes. What will make it different for us if we take this in the realm of our creator, the divine? That the divine, the biggest thing that the divine is, as I see, is creation, or creator, is creating everything that we experience on a large scale. So if that is the fact, if we come from creation, then what we can also know is that then we also have the ability to create, that we are also creators. Now, what I've come to learn is that I can't create the things like the Almighty creates. I haven't created the earth and the planets, but I still can create, and I still am creating. The question is, what are you creating? So the creation is the things that we desire to create, or the things that we're creating that we don't even realize we're playing a part in. And what do I mean by that? When we're thinking about fearful things or things that make us angry, we're bringing that energy more directly to our life experience, because we're seeing things from that lens, we're vibrating that energy, and we're attracting what we are. We attract what we are. We learned that in science, that we attract what we are. We're going to get more of that. So if you're holding at a base level, and I'm not talking about the superficial things that we present with a smile on our face to the world and to the people in our lives. I mean, at the base of who you are, if you're functioning from a foundation of fear, then you tend to create things in your life that reflect your fears. If you're functioning from a place of love and joy, you tend to create from that place of receiving more love and joy. And so recognizing that we are always creating, regardless if you're aware of it or not, regardless of if it's what you want or not, is a very big part of the power of creation. Recognizing that whatever we're thinking going day in and day out, we're bringing more of those experiences to our life. So recognize that whatever you're thinking going, brewing going, fearing or, whatever the stronger energy is that you're holding within yourself, it is what you're bringing to your life. When I've been in situations where I felt really bad and low about myself, I noticed that my relationships that I would have would be relationships that either echoed that by the behaviors that I had with these people when they engaged with me. Maybe they mistreated me, or I felt I was being mistreated, or I was in relationships where I didn't get the respect or love I thought I deserved, because I was holding more than anything this belief of who I was, that I didn't deserve those things or that I was not good enough for those things. We bring more of that in our life. Um, I had a friend in the past who she used to always end up in relationships where she felt the men that she dated were doing her wrong. But also when we would have conversations, her conversation about men in general was very negative. It was always very negative. And it was interesting to see how the relationships that came in her life were very negative. I had a friend who always talked about how men were dogs. Though she wanted to be married, her conversation was always about how much men were dogs. And I never saw her get married. And the men that she dated did treat her in what we would term as like a man who's a dog or a man who's cheating or running around. That was the experience that she was having. And I take that to myself when I felt low about myself, I ended up dating people who didn't seem to see my value, and that came out in our relationships. Um, so we're always creating, but on the flip side of that, when we really hold love and joy and high thought and emotions, then that tends to be mirrored back to us. And that is because that's part of us co-creating these things in our life. So number two, long answer, is that you are always creating, regardless of if it's something that you want or not. So the thing to be aware of is what is it that you want, and that brings us to number three, is to know what is it that you desire to have in your life. Because when you know what you desire, that can serve as an anchor, and then you can start to prepare your thoughts and your heart to put more focus on those things and to bring that energy of how that feels into your present moment. Not in a way of desperation, not in a way of longing for it as if you don't have it, but in a way that recognizes that this is what I desire. And I know what that would feel like because I can think on it right now and bring that emotion into my right now. I can put my thoughts on that right now. And it may seem like something that is, I don't want to say difficult, but first of all, might seem too simplistic, that a person would say, how is this possible? And what I would say is to just try it. You don't even have to try it on some large scale. Try it in small ways to really think on what you want, bring the emotion to how that would feel, and let that be something that you meditate on for large portions of your day. Starting your day meditating on that, ending your day meditating on that. Taking breaks in your day and remembering that this is the thing that I want. Because it's so easy for us to really get inside of the energy of what it is we don't want, that we don't realize that the universe doesn't know anything about no. It's just going to be what you focus on. If you're saying you don't want a purple dog, you're thinking about a purple dog. You're not thinking about the don't want the purple dog. You're thinking about the purple dog. So anything that you're thinking about, regardless if you're saying you don't want it, you're still thinking about the thing you don't want. So the important thing to do is to put the energy on what you do want. And it's easy in our society to think about the negative. It's something about that thing that we gravitate to so quickly or easily. It's a strong emotion, but we underestimate that the emotion of love is stronger than anything that we fear, because it's just those two things. The things that we don't want, there's a fear in relationship to that. And it might be a reason, it might be a valid reason to fear those things. But it's still the things that we don't want. At the base of that, there's some type of fear. And the things that we do want, the base of that is love. And love is a larger emotion than fear. But we have to feed the energy of love more so that we give it the respect that it deserves. I think in our society, we give more respect, meaning we give more attention to the things that we fear, and we discredit how powerful the love can trump that fear. And so one way to practice this is in your day-to-day to put your energy on what it is that you want, that feels good. And when you really think about it, and when you really practice it, what I've come to experience is that those are pleasurable moments that I can give myself in the day. Even if everything isn't going the way I want at the moment, I can give myself a break with my imagination and go into the things that I do want, and be happy in that in the moment, just to feel what that feels like. Because our body doesn't know the difference, and energy doesn't either. Energy knows what you are embodying, and what you embody, you radiate. And if we understand anything about frequency and science and the laws of the universe, we attract what we are. So be what it is that you desire, and understand that we're creating at all moments, but this is a way to create what it is that you really want for your life. Again, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and put a heart in my comment section if this resonated with you. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.